Hey guys, it's Rainee Romero. Thank you for watching the Carolina Justice Report. We welcome you. Today we are chatting about the Alex Jones case and trials that are going on today. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining us on the Carolina Justice Report today. I am joined with attorneys Justin Lovely and Amy Lawrence. Welcome, guys, again. So, today we're chatting about the Alex Jones trial and cases and all these things that are going on with him. For folks that don't know who Alex Jones is, who is he?
So Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist. He has a very popular blog and TV show that has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of viewers.
Millions, yeah.
Yeah, millions, okay, millions of viewers. He makes a lot of money promoting conspiracy theories. And this one particular got him in some hot water with this case.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's in the news right now because of something he said about Sandy Hook, and we all know that was an absolutely terrible thing that happened. And so, Amy, what exactly happened with Sandy Hook that he's in trouble for?
So Sandy Hook, I'm sure everybody knows, I think it left an imprint on all of our hearts.
Yeah.
Were children who were, I can't even say it, massacred in a school shooting in Connecticut years ago. And Alex Jones, he put forth this conspiracy that these children were crisis actors. This didn't happen. Those children didn't die. And the families of those, 3 families of those children said enough.
Yeah.
Enough. And they took him to court for defamation.
Yeah. So Alex Jones, he's really well known for InfoWars, and he's got the Alex Jones show. So he's been around for a long time, and he's known for kind of making these absurd comments about things like September 11th and, the Oklahoma City bombing and all of these things. But it hit a different kind of nerve when he talked about Sandy Hook and showed these pictures of these children and said this didn't happen, this is all fake. So then he was taken to trial. Tell me why that was different for Sandy Hook than some of these other things.
I think when he put those, pictures of those children on the screen and said that, they're part of this lie to America to try to take your guns, that's just a whole nother level, because people really believed it.
Yeah.
He had this mass following that really believed what he was saying. And he didn't even believe what he was saying. We know that now because we've seen, the text messages and the emails and all the stuff that came out in the trial, that he didn't believe his own bullshit, for lack of a better word. And he did all those things for his own profit. And I think that's really the sick part of it all, is that, he used the face of 22 little boys and girls who were killed in a school and then told that their life didn't have any value because they weren't even real.
Yeah.
And so the parents stood up. They had the wherewithal to bring a lawsuit, right? And he eventually acknowledges that it was all bullshit and it did happen, which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And then through the trial, because everybody's wondering, why would somebody do this? Well, he was making, I think the trial showed he was making like $800,000 a day on his show and his blogs. I mean, that's insane. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So of course he just kept it going and going, grinding, and kept doubling down, thinking, this day, this trial would never happen, but it did.
Yeah. So what does that trial look like? I mean, he was taken to trial, and this is a defamation trial, and it's like one of 3 that has to do with Sandy Hook. So what does that look like law-wise? Like, what is he being taken to court for? What are they trying to prove? What does that look like?
Well, it was in Texas, and they're trying to, they're bringing the family was bringing that and saying, look, like Amy said, our children did exist, and you're ruining their character by saying it did not happen. And that's essentially what the case was about.
Gotcha.
The issue that the jury struggled with, and that everybody in the legal community was wondering about, was there wasn't real damages, the actual damages, I should say, that the family could prove, or allegedly could prove.
Right.
And so they relied, obviously, like Amy just talked about, anguish, the emotional side of it. I mean, this was horrible.
Yeah.
So because the jury had to figure that out first before it could go to the next step.
So normally in defamation cases, and we've had these before, they're really hard. Right? So in some cases, you'll see someone who had a job there's been this lie, and a job was offered, and then all of a sudden it was taken away because this went, public or whatever that lie is. And so you have this actual damage, this number. But where do you put a number on, saying that a family and these children who've died have participated in this mass, what is the value of that?
Right.
I personally think as a mother, the worst thing as a parent, we've said this before, your biggest fear is that you'd have to bury your kid. And that, like I said, I'm sorry, it just really, really gets me. Because it's really not about just Alex Jones, it's about all of it. And the idea that someone would say that your kid didn't have a value and that you're participating in this mass conspiracy to try to take somebody's guns away is just, you're dealing with the worst thing that you've ever had to process in your whole life. And then you've got this guy who's going to say these horrible things. What's the value of that? I think it's invaluable. I don't even know if you can put a number on that. And I think that's what the jury talked about afterwards. It's how do you even put a number on that?
Right.
Well, the plaintiff's lawyers asked for $150 million. They weren't messing around. So they demanded big bucks. Now the jury had to struggle with what, like Amy just said, what is the actual value of this? How do we put a number on this? And this Reuters article this morning says that they interviewed and polled some of the jurors, and when they first started deliberating, they ranged from $500,000 up to $200 million.
Wow. And
so they dug in and tried to figure out, what is an appropriate, a just verdict that needs to be,
right,
delivered in this case.
I can't, it's just crazy that I'm still processing the fact that this guy has no line of what is appropriate, but obviously that was kind of his job to try and kind of
that was a shtick.
Yeah, to go over the line with things.
I never understand the people who listen to him. I could wrap my mind around people who listen to us. I'm all for a conspiracy theory, right? But when you start taking away from people's and hurting people.
Well, it's using their losses
for
your gain, which is,
it's like Sandy Hook is the line in the sand that I just don't see how you listen to him after the Sandy Hook stuff. As a parent, or as a human. He lost all sense of humanity when he did that.
Well, he's still broadcasting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, he was broadcasting in the middle of the trial, saying horrible things about, the father of the child of the trial in the trial, that he was he was mentally handicapped, he was autistic and all this other stuff, just horrible.
So can he talk about the trial as it's going on? Is that a legal thing?
Did you watch any clips of that trial?
No.
Oh my God, he's comical. He knew he was dead to rights. He just keeps he's stuttering through the whole time. He's trying to evade everything. His lawyers, they don't know how to defend him. And I think it just spoke with the verdict. It spoke clear as day, that
this kind of stuff has
to stop, has to be punished.
Well, and he has no, there's nothing
there's
you can
no remorse.
say.
I think that's the part. I think as a human, we all make mistakes and we all do stupid stuff, right? But it's the lack of remorse. I say all the time that owning something, taking responsibility and apologizing, 95% of the lawsuits in America would never happen if that were the case.
Yeah.
And I think if he looked at that family and just sincerely apologized and tried to do something right to fix it, he wouldn't be where he is today. But instead, it's this indignation, this doubling down that has got him into the situation he's in, and it's well deserved.
Well, we all know, of course, that this is wrong. But just to give the other side, folks are kind of arguing well, this is freedom of speech. And, people say things about anti-vaccinations and anti-this and other conspiracies and all this stuff, and they're not, getting taken to court. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the difference is that the truth is your defense. You can speak the truth. That doesn't mean you get to go and defame someone on a platform to millions of people and make $1 off of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the difference. You can say anything you want, but actions and words have consequences, and this was his. You can say anything you want, but there will be a consequence for those words and those actions.
Right.
And then he's filed bankruptcy through the company. So will this family ever collect? Probably not. And then they're also the punitive damages award is going to be capped because they're in Texas with tort reform. And people don't ever realize this, until something like this comes out in the news. But of that $45 million punitive, was it $45 million? $45 million punitive.
The verdict?
Punitive verdict, yeah. Portion
Yeah,
of it.
$49.3 million.
So that's going to be reduced, 90% because of Texas's punitive caps. So. I mean,
So-
and then they got to fight the bankruptcy proceedings against that entity. So they've tried to freeze those funds, right? So he can't move money around. So at least maybe they'll see some sort of recovery out of this. I don't know.
You know, when you talk about tort reform, everybody, and this is going to go down a whole other avenue, and so I apologize, but let me just say this for anybody listening. You know, tort reform sounds like a good idea, right? That we're going to cap damages. So let's give a whole other scenario. Let's say someone is drunk driving and they kill your child, right? And your spouse, and then they're capped at, let's say, $500,000. Is that justice? Is that what justice looks like? And so, and we do this in the name that it's going to bring insurance rates down, right? That doctors and providers can't afford it, or people trying to buy car insurance can't afford it, but not once in any state that has tort reform has insurance prices went down for anybody.
Never.
So it's all part. Now that's the real conspiracy theory. If we're going to talk about conspiracy theories, tort reform. They have provided us with this idea that it's for the betterment of our society, and it's gotten us nowhere.
And it sure as hell doesn't deter the conduct. It doesn't punish it.
Absolutely not.
No, because it
No.
keeps. I mean, that's why we still have cases going on and on and on.
Yeah. Well, and this, the verdict that just came out, the 49.3, was the first of three. So was it just three families that came forward? And so it's those three, or should it not be for all of the children?
It should be, but there were three families that were willing to go forward and go the distance. And this has been years in
Since
the making.
2012, right?
Yeah.
2012, yeah.
So, I mean, this has been going on for over a decade. And they were willing to go the distance because their hearts could handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they needed some kind of justice, whatever that looked like.
Yeah. This is a really dumb question, but just from somebody outside of law, does somebody always have to press charges in order to take somebody to court, or does just the law, the state, or whatever take somebody?
So no, we've got criminal aspect and then the civil aspect.
Right.
So what he did is not criminal. What he did is it's a civil wrong, and so a civil cause of action. So that's why it has to be brought by an individual.
Gotcha.
The individual that's been harmed.
Do you think the other families will come forward now that
I think the
these
statute of
Statutes ran,
limitations has ran. Yeah. And I just, we talk about this all the time, that what does justice look like for you? And a lot of times we talk about that in sexual assault cases, like sometimes it's just telling your story and somebody believing you, and sometimes justice is like full prosecution or a civil case and testifying in court, whatever that is. And so just like those 22 families, this is what that family needed. Mm-hmm. That was the justice that they needed.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of those other ones, if they
Maybe had settled.
He could have settled with them. I'll have to research that and
Yeah.
decide. I'm sure they did non-disclosure agreements and
Right.
Yeah.
confidentiality clauses if they did. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, I'm sure those Sandy Hook parents probably all converse and lean on each other at this point. So
Yeah, that's a club nobody wants to be in.
right. Yeah. So it would be interesting if kind of he settled with the others or something like that. Any other thoughts on this subject?
It's terrible. Have an open mind and don't get sucked into whatever news media you're watching. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's what that we should take out of this. And what does it say about us if we're going to be this polarized? Where many Americans actually believed Alex Jones.
Yeah.
So
Which is crazy.
maybe if they watch that trial, they definitely will not.
I think the reason why some of the people believe that is not just because Alex Jones said it, but because if we acknowledge it, we have to fix it, right? Mm-hmm. If we acknowledge that 22 children were murdered, then we got to do something about it.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to stomach the idea that somebody that would go into a school and kill babies.
Yeah.
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 And so I think that that's the slippery slope we get into, and somehow along the way, in order to try to save our own hearts, we've lost our humanity. And I think we can all do better.
It's easier to think that it's fake than to come to
Acknowledge
terms
that
with the
this really
reality.
happened. Yeah.
Absolutely. Interesting. Well, of course, we're going to keep following this. It's not over. He has 2 other trials, for his idiocy. But of course, we will keep you guys updated on that. Let us know if you have any questions in the meantime, so when we do a follow-up, we can kind of address those. Thank you so much for watching these. The Carolina Justice Report comes out every Tuesday at 2 p.m., so make sure you tune in for that. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, we're everywhere that you consume your media, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, our website, justiceslovely.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
When life gets ugly.